Jay here for Stretford, Paddock, and this is the Granada Europa League live preview. We're doing it live. I'm a bit nervous because I don't usually do these live. You all right?
I'm all right, yeah. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm all right.
We'll get through it. Joining
Granada
me
reports, we're calling it, aren't we?
Because no one's ever made that joke before, so we thought we'd be the first ones to do it. Joining me, as always, is my good friend and colleague, Joe Smith. Joe, Europa League. I don't know, man.
What? How is that? Are you coming out the gate? Europa League, I don't know, man.
I just, we've been watching a bit of Champions League so far this week, and it's like, I do want to win this competition. And, one of my favourite memories as a Manchester United fan was Stockholm. It was a fantastic night. But it's just it feels like a bit of a come down when you're like, Champions League, I can't wait to be back in that. Oh, yeah, Europa. I do want to win it, but it's not quite the same, is it? United versus Granada, no disrespect to Granada. We're going to get into them a little bit more later on.
We'll get right into them.
Right into them. But it's not quite the, United versus Barca or whatever.
Well, no, it's not.
Where do you stand on the
I
Europa?
think...
Are you up for this?
I'm well up for it.
I'm not saying I don't.
I'm right up for it. Yeah. And I don't think we're ready to win the Champions League.
No, we're not.
So and obviously I'm not going to say I'm glad we didn't go through. I don't believe that. That's not what I think.
No.
But once we're in the position now to say things that are unprovable.
Yes, unprovable.
Right? What I'll say
it's
is,
a word.
I think we've got a better chance of winning this than we did winning the Champions League, which I don't think is particularly controversial.
So
I think the chance of us winning the Champions League were very slim.
Yes.
And the chances of us winning the Europa League are quite high. Now, if this had come off of, we'd won the league last season and then we got knocked out in the group stages and we're trying to win the league back to back and we've got the Europa League to deal with to distract us, I would think, yeah, shit, get rid of it.
Yeah.
But we aren't going to win the league. We aren't going to win the FA Cup. We aren't going to win the League Cup. We weren't probably going to win the Champions League. I mean, obviously we weren't because we're not in it. So this is a chance to win a trophy that we otherwise wouldn't have won. And I don't think it stopped us doing anything in the league. We're still second. We sort of cemented almost, outside of a complete meltdown. We pretty much cemented fourth the other day.
Yeah, I agree.
With the win against Brighton. And now it's a chance to win something. And we haven't won anything under Ole yet. So for me, this is a big trophy. And it means a lot more than just the size and the glamour of the Europa League, which admittedly there isn't a lot of. It's not a big trophy. It's not a particularly glamorous trophy. But winning any trophy under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will be a huge step forward. And like I said, this is a really good chance to do that. So I'm really up for it.
No, I understand all that. And hopefully I'll get a little bit more excited as kickoff approaches. You've already got me a little bit more excited, Joe. So well done. As I said earlier, we will be getting into Granada a little bit later on. And we've actually got a Spanish football expert. Adam Mckola has been chatting to Roy from La Liga Lowdown, so he'll be telling us all about Granada.
Boom.
Because I know me and Joe know loads about him, but there's actually someone out there that knows a little bit more than even we do. This is a live video, so get involved in the comments, give us a like, let us know what you think about the game. You can see from United's form there, it's decent, some good wins in the last 5 games. A win over Brighton, I think, is the best way to describe that one.
Yeah.
Obviously, disappointing loss to Leicester in the FA Cup. Handy win over AC Milan to get us through, and a good win over a good West Ham team, coupled with a draw over, an okay.
But that doesn't really count,
that
does
doesn't really
it?
matters because all that matters is over the 2 times we got through. So, job done. One player whose form has been questioned by me and you, to be honest with you, is Mr. Rodriguez, Fred. He's been a bit patchy of late, shall we say, but he is a sort of mainstay of this Ole Gunnar Solskjaer team, and he's someone that, I know we'll get into our predicted 11s later on, but someone who starts practically every game for Ole, and there's a good chance he'll start against Granada. What have you made of Fred's form of late, and do you think that we need to see an improvement, or do you think that it's just a bit of a blip? Where do you stand on the Fred scenario?
We need to see an improvement from him.
Yep.
If he wants to be the player that is, as he is at the moment, kind of one of the first names on the team sheet. If he wants to continue to do that in a team that wins big trophies, he needs to be better than he is now. But one thing I will say about him, and it's weird because it's like, everyone says Rashford needs a rest. Everyone says Bruno needs a rest to a lesser extent, but they still say, Maguire needs a rest. Wan-Bissaka needs a rest.
Yeah.
Fred, look at that, 38 games he's played this season. And it's so rare you hear anyone say Fred needs a rest. Well, Fred does need a rest. And he's playing in that position where he's running, I don't have the stats to hand, but it's the most intense position on the pitch is midfield. in terms of getting forward, getting back, sprints, covering people, tracking people, both going forward and defensively. And he plays almost every game for us.
Yep.
And you don't hear anyone coming out going, Fred could do with the rest. Because you think, well, he's a bit of a terrier. He sort of gets stuck in. His game is based around running. People automatically assume, oh, well, he can just do that forever then, twice a week, and he won't ever get tired because his game is based around not getting tired. Well, you think, like, for me, he needs a rest. And let's hope he can come back better, before Christmas, I thought he was trending towards being a very good player in the midfield.
Yeah.
And then for the last 2 or 3 months, or 3 or 4 months now, he's been pretty poor, I would say, and giving the ball away a lot and at big times as well. And, stepping out of position, not tracking his men properly, not being, anything going forward. And I'm sort of saying maybe he needs a rest because otherwise you sort of have to go, well, how long can you be the first name on the team sheet or one of the first names on the team sheet like he currently is? But yeah, I think it's a bit unfair that we treat everyone else like a human. Like, Rashford and all these players, like, they've played a lot, let's give them a rest. But Fred, it's like, oh, it's just Fred, he can play every week and be a dogged, hard-working runner
comment.
Without any need for a rest. So I wouldn't play him tomorrow. I wouldn't play him because I think, it's the sort of game that, again, if we can't do it without Fred, I think Fred isn't going to make the difference in this sort of game when we're holding a lot of the ball and we're, pushing forward. Give him a rest and hopefully his form will come back because otherwise, it might be a position we look to strengthen.
No, I understand where you're coming from because Fred is one of those players that gets a lot of criticism, but very rarely people say, oh, it's a case of fatigue or fitness or whatever, where they may say that about Marcus or Bruno. But I kind of agree with Chris Lee there in the comments. He said, you cannot question Fred's effort, gives his all, but his ability is not there. And I question his ability.
Me too.
I do. I wonder if he's at the level we need. He's 28 years old, I think, now, and he might be at his ceiling. This might be as good as Freddie's ever going to get. Well, with McTominay, you can see improvements. You can maybe suggest or hope that it'll get a little bit better, and there's another sort of level for him to go. And Matic is on the decline. We know that. Some of the other younger players who aren't in the team yet, like Garner and Levitt and players like that, are obviously ones for the future. But I just worry if we've not seen the best of Fred and whether that isn't good enough if we are to have title winning or title challenging at least aspirations. But maybe he does deserve a little bit more credit because, as you said there, 38 appearances in a team that is second in the league and he's through to the quarterfinals of the Europa League. It's not all doom and gloom. One player that is often touted as needed a rest and someone who's been very effective, especially in Europe this season, is Marcus Rashford. He's been sort of one of our main performers. And I think in Europe we've scored 21 goals. And I think him and Bruno have got 13 between them. And he's got 7 of them. So we're obviously very reliant on Marcus Rashford. Do you feel we're over-reliant on him a little bit?
In terms of output, I do, yeah. And I think what that has done as the season's gone on is made him look to score at times when he doesn't need to. And it's like he's great at driving at men, going past one, putting the ball in, driving at men, going past one, cutting inside, putting the ball across, scoring. And I think his game is almost a mixture of fatigue and playing with injuries and the strikers in front of him either constantly changing through injury or just not being on form has meant that he now gets the ball, drives at a man, loses it, gets the ball, drives at a man, loses it. Rather than gets the ball, drives at a man, looks for a pass, I think he's almost boiled his game down to this, what is a quite a frustrating element of his game, but one that he's in control of. So I think he thinks, I know myself, if I drive at the man 8 times in a game, 2 of those times I'll get a shot away. And hopefully 1 of those times I'll get a goal. But I think the other 6 times, it must be quite frustrating to play alongside. And it's quite frustrating to watch because he does give the ball away a lot. And it seems like he's like, I'm just going to sprint into the box every time, see what happens. I think, like I said, part of that is down to playing with a bit of an injury. Like there was points, this is a while ago now, but the PSG game where he was sort of not through on goal, but one-on-one with his man, level with his man. And he can't sprint because he can't pump his arm through because his shoulder's like broken or, injured. So some of it, I think, has been like almost he's gone down this path of like, I'm going to tailor this part of my game to go away from this injury. And I'm going to tailor this because this person's not in form. I'm going to tailor this because I think I can do this. I think he needs to kind of go back to where he was at the start of the season where he would go past a man if he could. He would drive into the box if he could. But above all else, he's looking for what is the right thing to do. I think he's just gone down a bit of an alleyway in terms of he's a bit predictable at the moment. And he's still getting the goals, and he's still, I think at the point we got knocked out of the Champions League, he was level top scorer in the Champions League, 6 goals or something like that. So he's obviously been very effective, and he scored again the other day. But I think those numbers are just slowing down a little bit compared to where they were a couple of months ago, because he does seem to be a little bit more predictable in his movements, a little bit more, he's not working the same way as he was, not quite as effective as he was. But again, some of that is probably down to the fact he's still playing with a bit of an injury. Although Ollie did say today, when the medical staff come to me and say that he's not ready, I never play him. He said if they say he's not right, he doesn't play. So I don't think.
But how often has that happened? He's played practically every game.
Yeah, exactly.
Almost.
Who knows?
Other than the Leicester game, which when he wasn't even in the squad was one of the first few times he's not been at least on the bench. And even when he has been on the bench, like the Fulham game, for example, where we thought he was going to get a rest, he ends up coming on, albeit only for 7 minutes or whatever it is. So I just think, I worry sometimes that, obviously the medical staff will assess him, but a big part of that will be asking Marcus Rashford, how do you feel? Are you fit? Is that okay? And if he's saying because obviously a player that's mad keen to play for Manchester United and do his best for the club, then sometimes I just wonder whether he needs protecting for himself and whether he perhaps needs to be a little bit more honest about his injuries. But like you say, he's obviously been very effective. I still think there's more to come from Marcus.
Me too, definitely.
We've seen, in terms of performances, there's only been a handful of performances where I think that's a real sort of top-notch 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 performance from Marcus. But there's been lots of games where he's given a lesser performance but scored or got an assist. So I think once his performances match his productivity, we're going to see another level from Marcus.
And it's a good point there from Mawado, who says, I don't think there's a player in the world who gets 30-plus goals and assists and still gets the criticism Rashford gets. I think for most of the season, I completely agree with you. And I've said it before, I think part of his game is giving the ball away.
It's got to be, though,
and it's going to be.
Try.
Exactly. But the thing that the distinction I've tried to make is, in the last sort of 6 to 8 weeks, I think that part of his game has been the vast majority of his game. Yeah. And the numbers and the goals have slowed down. That's, alongside that, I think he just needs to go back a little bit, do what he was doing before, find his teammates a bit more. And again, it's not easy when, Cavani's the main striker. That's the one. He's out for 6 weeks. Okay, Martial's coming back in. He's out for 2 weeks. It's like chop and change. Sometimes he's playing as a split striker. Sometimes it's Dan James. Sometimes it's Greenwood, Cavani, Martial. Who knows what's going on in front of him and around him. So I understand it. And I think a lot of the criticism he gets is unjust. But I do think at the moment he's just relying a bit too much on that drive into the box and hope something happens. But obviously he's a great player and he knows
a lot of
what he's doing.
What we're saying as well, I mean, I love Marcus Rashford more than life itself.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is, I rate him. I think he's a very good footballer. I think he's one of the best talented attackers in the world. I really do. So when we're saying, he's got another level to go, he can be more consistent, he can raise his game, I don't mean that as a criticism, even though it might sound like one. I think that, we've seen it in the past where he's put in better performances, but he's massively effective, and we are relying on him, as the numbers show. So, we've got a lot more other issues than Marcus Rashford, but he's someone that I think we need to protect a little bit more. With that in mind, we'll go into predicted 11s. You didn't predicted or preferred?
This is my predicted 11.
You think this is who Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to pick for the Europa League first leg quarter-final against Granada?
Yes.
Go on then, talk us through it, brother.
Okay. So I've gone De Gea. I think if the suggestions are true that Dean Henderson is now the first choice, then that would make De Gea the cup goalkeeper.
Makes sense.
So if that is the case, which is what we've been reading, I think De Gea will play, and then that back four pretty much picks itself. I think in terms of, we may see Tellez because he does get the Europa League games occasionally, but I think first leg, strong team, try and get 2 or 3 goals, and we'll take it from there. So I've gone with Shaw. I've gone Pogba and Matic. These are the sort of games that Matic plays. I know he was shocking against Leicester, but that was 3 weeks ago, whatever it was now. So he's had a rest, he's had a break. I think get Matic in alongside Pogba. We know that partnership works. Gives Fred a rest, which is much needed. We may see McTominay in there potentially instead of Matic, but I think it will be Matic and Pogba because Ole knows that partnership. And it holds the ball very well. Then I've gone Dan James on the right, Fernandes and Rashford, and Greenwood up front. I thought that spell Greenwood had after Cavani came off, getting the poacher's goal, a diving header on the 6-yard line, is the sort of striker's instinct that we've been looking for from Martial or from whoever it has been for a while. And if he can continue that, if he can really turn himself into a top number 9 and add those elements to his game, I think that would be fantastic, and I think this would be a good opportunity for him to do that. And I think as well, the pace of Rashford and James could be really dangerous. So I've gone with those two on the wings and Greenwood as the number 9 there, because Cavani still seems like things are up in the air with him a little bit. Is he fit? Is he want to leave? Is he, what's going on? So I've gone Mason Greenwood up front. So yeah, there's my team.
Very strong team. Just back on the De Gea front. I mean, all these there's reports. I think it was Disco Dave in the Mirror today saying that there's actually 2 number ones at Old Trafford, and Ollie's still not.
That's do you know?
Do you believe it, and B, do you think that's a good idea?
To use a word that you only ever see in sort of non-fiction or fiction books from the 1930s, hogwash, Jay.
Hogwash, I like that.
Absolute hogwash.
Hogwash.
There's no such thing as having 2 number ones.
Yeah.
Because when the kits come out next season, only one of them's got the number 1 on the back.
Facts.
Regardless
Factual.
of what you want to say.
I can't argue with any
so
of that,
even obviously that's there is no such thing. You can't have 2 number 1s. You've got to have your girlfriend and your side piece. You ain't got 2 girlfriends.
I have my lady friend. And that is it. And happy anniversary.
Well, exactly. And that is the functional way to do things. But you can't be having 2 people going, no, you're the main, you're my mate, you're one wife and you're the other wife.
The other one.
I know some people do have 2 wives, but you know what I mean. The point is, we haven't got 2 number 1s. We're in a transitional period where I don't think it's news to anyone that Ole is trying to make Dean Henderson the number 1 and seeing if it fails along the way potentially. I think maybe currently you could say we don't have a number 1. I think it's possible to not have a number 1, but it isn't possible to have 2 number 1s. No. So, yeah, I think De Gea seems to be dropping down that list from everything we're hearing. But who knows? Some good performances from him and a shake into the season from Henderson, and we might be back at square one.
That's what I wanted to ask you, and you've answered that. Thanks, Marco Gianni. Trump, welcome to the academy. If we got that one right, there's a lot of chat as well in the chat about haircuts, Joe. About you giving haircuts.
Yep.
If you've not checked that out, go and check out on the members. If you are a member, or if you're not a member, have a look on the members section. Joe giving a haircut because everyone's debating here how much. Someone's saying they'd give you 15 quid.
15 quid
to cut their hair.
Well, Mitz gave me. He normally pays 15 quid for his, and he gave me a tenner, so that's not bad.
All right, and a very good job as well. Very quick as well. Joseph was.
Let's have haircut. Shut up, 2.5 hours. Let's have a look at your team then.
Yes, if we bring my team up. You can see there. This is a predicted 11. This is who I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will go for. So
is it? Is it really?
Yes. It's right. I've gone for a back 5 of the bog standard back 5. Apart from actually, you make a point there. I brought De Gea back in for the pretty much the reasons you said. That even if Dean Henderson is number 1 now, because this is Europa, then that would mean that De Gea comes in because he tends to switch it around in the Europa League anyway, doesn't it? And Dean Henderson's the one who's been playing most of the games, so that makes sense for De Gea to come in. Harry Maguire, who's got a fantastic record of starting games for Manchester United. He started something like every Premier League game. I know this isn't a Premier League game.
Well, yeah, he's got 100 appearances for United in 600 days since joining.
And isn't it something like every Premier League game as well during that time or something like that? It's
I think he played every minute of every Premier League game.
Every minute of every Premier League game, which is just phenomenal. I've got Lindelof. I know Eric Bailly's one that everyone likes, but I don't know. There's a little bit of issue there.
He's got COVID.
He's COVID, so yeah, there you go. A little bit of an issue there with his COVID. He ain't coming into the squad. It's that simple. So Victor Lindelof, Aaron Wan-Bissaka right back in midfield.
Yeah, go on then. Go on then, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's right hand man.
Right, I believe he's in the squad. Correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. So years ago, people remember when he won like his Jimmy Murphy Award and that. He did play as a holding midfielder.
Yeah.
So because it's Europa, and no disrespect to Granada, are a good team, but you can change things up a little bit. Why not give him a chance there? See if he can do bits there. And Fred, we've already spoken about. Oh, there you go. Is he in there?
Yeah,
he's in there. So
he's listed as a defender, but what do ManUnited.com know?
Well, actually, not a lot if you go on some of the things you've said. But I just think that if you're ever going to, because we've spoken about this before, and people said Axel could do a job as a holding midfielder. Yeah. When are you going to try that? When? You're not going to try it against Spurs. So why not try it now? Because it's not like a role he hasn't played before, and it's not like he's up against a Barcelona or an excellent team. And also, if the rest of the team is as I think it is, that's a very strong United team with perhaps one sort of risk, shall we say. So I've gone with Axel as a holding midfielder, and I'll probably be wrong, but you never know. I've gone with Marcus on the left. I think he will play. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, despite what he says, always plays Marcus unless he literally cannot physically get his boots on. I'm going to give Donny van der Beek a chance in the 10. I just wonder whether now might be the time to start him in that preferred role. People say he's not at the 10, he's an 8, or he's this and that. But he obviously can play in a 10 role. I don't understand why I don't get it.
Can we talk just briefly about Donny van der Beek?
Please do.
Because I thought the work he did for the goal the other day was very nice. But I have never in my entire life, Jay, see one person be given so much credit for not touching a football. People are acting like, You don't know the genius of Donny van de Beek. He made one run and then he sort of turned around and ran into the box.
Twice he's had that now, and he did it against Leicester as well. He did
and it's good, and it's very good, and it helps. It definitely helps.
Yeah.
But people were like, Donny didn't even touch the ball, but this is world class. Like, I get it. He's helped out. He's made a run.
Yeah.
But come on, guys. Let's stop. Like, I don't know. I don't want to, by extension, be dissing Donny.
Right.
Because I like him, and it was a good run that he made. But he made one run out to sort of toward the wing, and then just sort of turned around and ran into the box. And it helped Greenwood get a bit of space. And people are acting like, oh my God, it's Platini on the pitch. You're like, calm it down a bit. Let's see if he can actually touch the ball.
Well, this is a reason. This is one of the reasons as well, because people have had this debate going on about Donny van de Beek, and now again would be a great chance. It's much less of a risk than it would be, even if it is a risk.
I hope he plays, by the way. I hope he does play.
Putting Donny van de Beek in at that number 10, I don't think that's much risk at all. And against Granada, again, I don't want to be too disparaging against him, but you think he'd be able to do a job there. On the right-hand side, I've gone with Dan James. Part of the reasoning for that is because I've gone with Mason up front because of the issues. You've mentioned it with Cavani and with Anthony Martial. Mason Greenwood got a real striker's goal the other day. He can play up front. Similarly to the fashion that we've seen Axel Tuanzebe when he was a younger player playing in midfield, Greenwood was always a striker, and he's only been put on the right wing as part of as sort of what's been going on recently with Manchester United, because we haven't had a right winger. So that's why I've gone with that. I'm just going to get into some of your super chats there. If we can just zoom in on them a little bit. Sorry, my eyesight's terrible. Big Dosser says, I agree. I'd like to see Axel in midfield, but I don't think a quarter-final with our only potential trophy on the line is the stage. He'd do a job, though. I mean, I understand that. It is a quarter-final, but,
maybe the quarter-final second leg.
Yeah. And also, the players that have left out, I've obviously left out the likes of, Matic and Fred, Matic and McTominay and Bruno and Pogba. You can always make changes. Yep. It's not, not just for the second leg, but for the game as well. Mike says, progress is more important than a trophy. Second is great with a paper-thin squad. The league position doesn't lie on progress. With Ole, United feels like United for the first time since Sir Alex. Sorry, the super chats have just gone off here.
We've still got another one to read, by the way.
Sorry.
Nate Bennett
says, Dean commands his area and the defence is more organised. When he starts, they both have the occasional mistake, but Dean has qualities Dave doesn't. Luke H says, lads, nothing to worry about. Granada are gash. 4-0. So he's obviously feeling very confident.
Yes.
Just on that front, on Granada, we have been speaking to an expert. Rory from the Liga Lowdown sat down with Adam Mckola. We didn't sit down with him. Did it over, online as you do.
Well, he sat down at the same time.
He sat down at the same time, and they had a chat about Granada because he's the formative expert on all such matters. So here's what Adam Mckola and Rory from the Liga Lockdown had to say about United's game against Granada.
First off, what should Manchester United fans expect from this Granada team for those that haven't seen much of them this season?
Yeah, so I think the thing that defines this Granada team as a football side is mainly their versatility and their adaptability. They're a team that defensively, they're going to defend the central areas pretty well. I don't think there's going to be acres of space open for Manchester United to be running into. And I think if you compare this tie to the game they had against Real Sociedad, they will not provide as easy a route through to goal as Real Sociedad did. I think that first leg, Manchester United took them to the cleaners, and Granada, they play with a lot of personality. It's very rare that they would be cowed by a challenge. I think you're likely to see them dropping deep and trying to hit Man United on the break, because I think that's where they'll probably get the most joy. But as I say, they've got personality. They don't mind being on the ball. They don't mind keeping possession for a few minutes and trying to work an opening. So I think it's a versatile team. It's physically pretty imposing. You won't be muscling them off the ball, so to speak. And I think they've got a few weapons that Manchester United will have to deal with, and will have to work a way around that defence.
They obviously got a Europa League spot last year. Was that seen as a major surprise in Spain? Because although we see that, all right, oh look, they've got it. We don't really see the reaction to things like Granada getting a Europa League spot here. Was there shock by it? Because they're in and around those spots at the minute, aren't they? 8th or 9th?
Yeah, they're in 9th place at the minute, but it was a huge surprise last season. They had literally just come up from the 2nd division, first season promoted, and their 40-year-old manager has taken them to the Europa League for the first time in their history. It's their first ever European campaign. So we're talking about fairy tale stuff here. And you mentioned that it's a shame that we can't be at this game and we can't be sunning ourselves in the south of Spain, because if you look at the Granada city, it looks like a fairy tale setting. It's got like an old citadel. It's set with a backdrop in the mountains and everything.
What kind of what's the reaction been to their European run? Because I'm sure, like, if this is their first European run, this is probably one of their biggest games ever.
Oh, 100%. That's Diego Martinez, their manager. He said as much. He said this is one of the biggest games in our history. It's certainly the furthest they've ever got in terms of on an international stage, obviously. And I think the reaction has been sort of living on a prayer, sort of this is dream stuff. I think as much as they will be gutted that they can't be there to see it in person as well, this is, they not in your wildest dreams. It's a complete football manager territory for Granada fans, and I don't think anybody expected them against Molde. I think that was a nice draw in terms of the teams that were left in the competition at that stage, but they put Napoli out before that. And I think one of the important things to highlight for me is that they're doing this with numerous injuries. They were down to the very bare bones, both against Napoli and Molde. Against Napoli, I think they had 4 players go off injured in that second leg, and they used all of their senior outfield players to play that match. There was nobody left on the bench who wasn't a youth teamer. I don't know if you're familiar with Graham Hunter from his work on Sky Sports.
Yeah,
but he's asked Patricia Rodriguez, their CEO, just how are you guys doing this? You've got no players left. A lot of your players are sort of older, 34, 35. In the case of Jorge Molina, 38. How are they coping with all these games? And she said to him, it's pure adrenaline. They're living off this sort of moment. And so, yeah, fair play to them. But it's been very much a reaction, I think, of overjoyed delight from everyone in Granada. And I think everyone else in Spain is pretty pleased to see them doing this as well.
One of those things that United need to be prepared for then is that if you go into this game with one eye off the ball or just thinking, it's Granada, what are they going to do? That's where they can cause you those shocks, because they're just living on that momentum that they've built up. But if you can get an early goal in that and they just have an adrenaline dump and it's like, oh my God, we're now in this stage, what's going to happen? You could actually find them being on the receiving end like Real Sociedad were, if, United do play their cards right. So it's a really finely balanced tie, and it's interesting to see how they do come out, how they play against United, if they look to sit back or if they look to be a little bit braver. I think some of the names United fans will be more aware of are Roberto Soldado and Kennedy. But in terms of the style of their play and their players, is there anyone we should be watching out for, or anything we should be watching out for?
Certainly, I think if you had to mark out one player that's maybe perhaps going to go on and do bigger things in this team, it's Yangel Herrera. He's on loan from Manchester City, and I don't know if they signed him permanently actually, but he's a presence in midfield. He breaking from midfield and getting into the box. He scored 8 goals this season, and he's technically very good. He's very smart at losing his marker. He's a threat in the air. He's the sort of player that you will notice charging into the box when he's coming at you. I think as well, you might want to keep an eye on Darwin Machis, who's coming back from injury, but he's a Venezuelan sort of winger / wide forward. And he scored a goal against Feyenoord earlier in the Europa League. And it was like watching Cristiano Ronaldo in his early days. He just cut in from the left, drove at the defence, and then whipped it into the top corner. And it was one of those goals where you're not even looking at the defence and being like, they could have done something more about that. It was just like, hats off. That was a phenomenal goal. And I think those two players will provide a bit of spark for them. And I think in general, they will want to watch out for Granada on the break, but more so breaking from midfield. I think Scott McTominay, if he plays, will be key in tracking Yangel Herrera and shutting sort of that option down, because they are very good at getting sort of out wide, whipping balls in kind of thing.
I'm looking forward to this one. I got a feel there's going to be goals in it. If you were going to put a prediction on the first leg, do you think it will still be wide open going into the game at Old Trafford?
I think so. I think Granada, as you said, it's that fine balance of that first goal, which is going to really define this tie in a way. But I think Granada won't crumble if they go 1-0 down, and they certainly won't be as open as Real Sociedad. In that sense, I'm going to predict 1-1. Perhaps I'm being slightly optimistic on the Spanish side of things. Man United, as we know, or they've got the weapons, they've got the pace to exploit this Granada side. But yeah, I think 1-1, they'll try and keep it as tight as possible, look for the break, look for set pieces. They've got in Jorge Molina, who's, as I said, 38, but he is an absolute fox in the box kind of thing. He's the sort of figure point if he plays, around which they'll pivot. And same with Soldado, now very experienced. He knows what he's doing around that sort of part of the pitch. And so yeah, I'm gonna say 1-1. Perhaps I'm being slightly optimistic, but I think the second leg, there'll be stuff to play for in that second leg. I'll say that.
Interesting. I could actually see that happening with the form that we've been in recently, especially like we're just not creating enough chances at times, and we need to do better at that. And if we don't perform against like a team like Granada, who they're clearly going to be up for it, do you know what I mean? And if Manchester United aren't, that's when things can go wildly wrong. I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of went there, maybe got something on the break, but look to take it to Old Trafford and finish it off there. So I'll go a slightly more optimistic for United angle, 2-1. But I am a little bit wary of this one. It's the unknown more so. Is there anything the guys at home should be knowing about you, Rory? Thank you for joining us today. Obviously, you're on La Liga Lowdown. What kind of stuff are you guys doing over there?
So we've got a lot of coverage. We'll obviously be across the Granada tie, and so if any of the good people watching are prone to seeing sort of what this tie looks like from the Spanish perspective, we'll be covering it from that side of things. But yeah, there's a lot of in-depth coverage in terms of sort of articles and podcasts across La Liga and across Spanish football in general, but also sort of if you just want a passing view at El Clásico, which is this weekend, or Granada in the Europa League, then there's plenty of good stuff on Twitter for you to find there.
I was about to say that the Clásico this weekend, you must have loads coming up for that. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction, so people can go over to check out what you're doing on La Liga Lowdown. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. And I'm sure when we play Spanish opposition again, we'll get you on. But hopefully, next time we do something like this, we'll be sat in the sun somewhere. That'd be good, isn't it?
Yeah, we could be out on one of the wee terraces and doing this, and I look forward to that. I'll be in touch if Granada are drawing Man United again.
Most defo. Thank you very much again. And back over to Jay and Joe.
So big thanks there to Rory from La Liga Lockdown. Make sure you check them out. There's a link in the description to their, I think there's a link to their Twitter, and you can find them as well. They're always talking some good stuff about La Liga. Much appreciated to him for coming on the channel, and hopefully we'll be doing some more stuff with those guys
Definitely
soon for the return leg as well.
Second leg,
because it is 2 legs. You're speaking quite highly of the midfield in particular there from Granada, because it's easy for us laymen like myself to be a bit dismissive, look at him and go mid-table in La Liga. Oh, this will be easy. But we've sort of thought like that before, haven't we? And we've been embarrassed. Yeah. You know, I remember, was it Bilbao who came to Old Trafford and gave us an absolute lesson in football?
Don't even start.
Hey, when
don't
I was sat
start
there
on the Bilbao thing.
Who it is?
Why don't we talk about the last time we played against a team in Spain that was mid-table? about 6 weeks ago.
When we absolutely took him to the cleaners away.
Because I don't want to think about that Bilbao thing, because then it makes me think of Ander Herrera, then it makes me think of how we let him go on a free.
Did I say lockdown there? Sorry, David Guido, in the chat there. I think I said lockdown, lowdown, La Liga Lowdown, not lockdown.
You've got lockdown on the mind.
Lockdown's getting to my brain. Mentioned quite a few players there. Herrera, midfielder as well. Yangel Herrera, obviously a player to look out for.
Yeah.
When you hear that, when you hear him talking about some of those players, and obviously there's a little bit of quality there, there's a lot of quality there. Do you think we do need to be a little bit wary that we don't go into this complacent?
Yeah, of course.
Because you know, with European football, you might go, it's only Europa, it's only a mid-table Spanish team, but you just don't know what to expect, do you? And if you do go into this game and you concede an early goal, or you're not winning that midfield battle, then it can all go wrong very quickly.
Yeah, and they're obviously not a bad team, and like we said, they've got some talented players there. And personally, that's why I've picked a strong team. That's why I predict that Ole will pick a strong team. Even in the second leg against Sociedad, he picked a very strong team.
People
were
were
4-0 up.
Critical, weren't they? Because
they were.
Bruno ended up playing 45 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
And I think Marcus ended up playing as well. And it was like, what's he doing here? These players are knackered. But I think that comes from that, and you have to show these teams respect.
Yeah, because the last thing you want is, obviously the first leg, you want to be getting a couple of goals advantage if you possibly can. But the last thing you want is to look foolish and to look naive and look as though you think you're better than someone, and then they trip you up. It's one thing if United put out the full strength team and it's a draw, or let's say United lose 2-1 or something in this leg tomorrow, there will still be people who say we didn't take it seriously, we didn't respect Granada. And then if you add on to that the idea that we could lose to them having played a half strength team in the first leg, that would really look sort of disrespectful and as though we just think we're too big for it. I don't think we'll do that. I think we have to be very careful that we take this match completely seriously. As fans, I think we're always going to. And as players, you would assume the same as well. But yeah, I think United will take this seriously. And we've been tripped up enough times in the past, as every club has, to know that you've got to be putting out what is close to a full-strength side. Because the only reason we're, potentially better than Granada is because we've got better players. So if you don't play those good players, all of a sudden you're leaving it up to, a draw or potential loss on a bad day. So for me, you've got to play pretty much a full-strength team, certainly in the first leg.
So with all that in mind, with your predicted 11, from what you've heard from Ruri about Granada, what's your score prediction?
If it is as strong a lineup as I'm predicting and as I'm hoping that Ole will pick, and I think he will, I'm going to go 2-0 United. I think defensively over the last month or two, we've actually looked very good. I know we've had a couple of lapses here and there, some of which has come through the midfield. But I think overall we look really good post-Christmas defensively. I think they'll struggle to break us down. I think United will get goals as well. So yeah, 2-0.
I'm going to go with 3-1 to United. So, that'd be a pretty emphatic win, wouldn't it, for the first leg? But I don't know. I think we do have to be wary. And I think that if it was 3-1, even 2-0, it's not over. No. This isn't, even with Sociedad, as you said, there was still that little thing of make sure they don't get an early goal to make the second leg interesting. But obviously after 4-0, it was pretty much over and done with. But yeah, this might be a little bit closer. So I've gone with 3-1. Joe's gone with 2-0. Get involved in the comments. Let us know your score predictions. Let us know how you think Manchester United will do in the Europa League. We've had a bit of a poll in terms of what will be a successful season for Manchester United and whether Europa League would be classed as a successful season if we were to win it. You can see it there on Twitter. It says, if we win the Europa League, would you class that this season, as successful? At the moment, yes, say 49.2%. Better than Nout says 42. Oh, sorry, it's the final results. Says 42%, and no, say 8.8%. Joe, where do you stand on that? If we win the Europa League, is that successful?
I guess that is with the assumption that we stay in the top four.
Well, even if we don't, we're still in the Europa. I know where you're coming from.
A collapse that led to us being outside the top four at this point would be probably more detrimental than any gain we would get from winning the Europa League. But assuming that we continue...
I know we'd still be in the Champions League, but I get what you mean. Because it'd be a horrible league run.
Exactly, yeah. If we continue roughly on the sort of points per game we've been on, stay top four, hopefully stay second, and win the Europa League, I would say it's a successful season in terms of expectation versus reality. If you take 2, 3, 4 steps back and look at Man United as a club, that's not a great year.
Yeah.
But based on where the squad is, where other people in the country are in terms of other clubs, and we didn't think we'd be able to Liverpool, all these sorts of things, I would have to say that was a successful season without being particularly, over the moon with it.
No, I think that's a great point because historically, for Manchester United, a great season has been winning, the Champions League, or a successful season has been winning the league. But if you look where we are, I think second, if we would stay second, for example, and winning a European trophy, I'd be happy with that. And I'd class that as a success, especially when we're coming into this season and you look how far we were behind the likes of Manchester City, the likes of Liverpool. Chelsea went out and spent a lot of money during the summer. Then you thought we'd be... we thought we'd be struggling to even get into the top three, let alone sort of cementing our place in the top two, or, looking very comfortable in the top two. We're going to wrap it up there. Joe, where can people find you and what have you got coming up?
Joe Smith 93 on Twitter and Instagram. And tonight we will be back again with all the news, all the transfers on Stretford Paddock Live at 9 o'clock. So make sure you check that out at home for anyone who's watching.
Can you? Hey, just love
we've got to get all the news out. There's so much news.
Happening. Yeah. Just, one video doesn't even remotely cover it.
Don't touch the sides, Jay.
Touch the sides.
No.
We've also got the watch-along for the Granada game tomorrow. It'll be you,
Adam Mckola,
and Freddie.
And TikTok's Freddie Quinn. We're calling TikTok's Freddie Quinn. For a long time, he was a stand-up comedian, Freddie Quinn. But now he's got a lot of hundred thousands of followers on TikTok. I'm calling him TikTok's Freddie Quinn.
Yeah, and we'll also be hearing from Stephen Howson. He'll be giving us his predictions and stuff before the game, and I'll be chatting to him as well. Ronaldo will be here, so make sure you are staying tuned. If you're not doing, give us a subscribe. Check out the members section as well, where you can see him dishing out haircuts. A big thanks to Ruri from the Liga Lowdown, if you get that right.
Finally.
Make sure you're going to go and check them out. There's a link there. They've got you covered for all the stuff covering La Liga. I've been Jay Motti. That's been Joe Smith. This has been the Granada Europa League preview. Thanks for watching.